up becoming the offensive coordinator with the Minnesota Vikings, who, despite James, your hate for Kirk Cousins, has done a pretty good job with the offense.
Yeah, because they're not letting him throw the ball that much. It's called a running game. His name is Dalvin Cook, something the last OC didn't want to do. The ball, Cousins looks like an NFL quarterback. That's what
Nick and I have already mentioned that we're going with the Atlanta Falcons. James is also going with the Atlanta Falcons. And MJ wrote in a thing here, and I'll just tell you, I'll just cut right to the chase. He's going with the Atlanta Falcons too.
Yeah, of course. Quick hits on the injury report. Panthers have Greg Olsen in the concussion protocol still. McCoy has an ankle injury. He's listed as questionable as well. Greg Little shows up as questionable for the Falcons. Tight ends Hooper and Stalker are both listed as questionable. Julio Jones also on the injury report. And tackle Sam Briallo, not showing what his injury is, but he got hurt last week against the Saints. So he's listed as questionable as well.
Matchup of two top 10 teams, quite honestly, this probably is the game of the week. The Baltimore Ravens at the Buffalo Bills. The Ravens number 1, the Bills number 8. Ravens favored by 5.5 points. Weather should not be a factor in this one. Mid-40s, partly cloudy or mostly cloudy. So we got no real Buffalo weather to be concerned with in this particular game. Ravens have the longest winning streak currently, 8 games. This also matches 2 of the AFC's best teams, but 2 of the best NFL's dual threat quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson, 977 net rushing yards, more than 5 NFL teams have this year. Also ranks 4th in the NFL with a 109.6 passer rating. Josh Allen ranks 3rd among NFL quarterbacks with 430 rushing yards and has a 4th quarter passer rating of 114. This will feature the, as it says here, Sunday's game will have more combined rushing yards, 1,407, by starting quarterbacks than any contest in NFL history. Additionally, Jackson needs only 23 rushing yards. Spoiler alert, he's going to get it. To become the second quarterback in NFL history with 1,000 yards rushing and 63rd to post the most rushing yards in a single season by an NFL quarterback. 63 more yards to post the most rushing yards in a single season by an NFL quarterback, surpassing Michael Vick, who had 1,039 in 2006. Ravens are on pace to have the most prolific rushing campaign in the NFL's 100 seasons. Since the league moved to the 16-game schedule in 78, Baltimore's 207.8 net rushing yards per game are on pace to finish 10 yards better than any other team during that span. With probably pretty much every game left on the calendar for the Baltimore Ravens, I will hope for the best, but expect the worst. and there's no way I can take anybody but the Ravens. Nick, you're going with the Bills.
Oh my God. I got to hear this.
I switched that just now. I mean, I was going from the Ravens are going to probably win this game, but I kind of wanted to give at least a dissenting view in favor of the Bills having a chance. And I was like, I'm just going to switch it. So, yeah, I mean, I think, I would definitely be picking the Ravens if this was in Baltimore. But I do think, and it's obviously going to be a big testing ground game for the Bills, who, haven't played a team as good as the Ravens this whole season. The closest thing they had, though, was against the Cowboys, effectively kind of ending their season in a sense on Thanksgiving Day. And it was a game where they were, against a similar kind of formula. Obviously, they're 2 very different offenses in terms of the Cowboys and the Ravens. But you have a mobile quarterback. You have an attack that's sort of a little bit run first, run to set up the pass. And, although the Cowboys put up some numbers, they still made a lot of mistakes. And the Bills were able to sustain drives much better and kind of had control of that game all the way through. The Bills defense is good. It's one of the better defenses that the Ravens have faced. I mean, we saw a poor conditions game against the 49ers. I think this is going to be a similarly low-scoring game in which, one score is probably going to swing it. And you know what? I'm just going to put my faith in Josh Allen and say that weird stuff is going to happen up in Western New York.
Rob wrote about the defense saying the thing to know is that the Bills have a bit of trouble stopping the run. Ravens are the best running team in the league. Bad for the Bills. Don't be surprised to see Trey White covering their tight end in this game, except the Ravens have 3 that they play all the time. It's a similar strategy they used against Philadelphia with Zach Ertz. If the Bills are able to stop the run and play disciplined, it will give them a chance. Unfortunately, no one yet has been able to completely crack the code that is the Baltimore running game. That's not true. The Ravens have lost 2 games this season. There's got to be somewhat of a game plan to play the Ravens.
Score early.
Weirdly, the Chiefs really limited their running attack despite being generally pretty bad against the run. So there are some schematic things you can do. I mean, granted, that was early in the season. I think the Ravens and Lamar have gotten better as the season has gone on. But, yeah, I mean, it's not impossible.
Absolutely. Yeah, Nick, and your first statement as far as, why you're picking the Bills is pretty much why I'm not overly convinced the Ravens just run away with this game. I do expect it to be a low-scoring game as well. I can see the Bills winning, but the way the Ravens have been playing lately, it's hard to go against them considering the teams they've beaten over the last several weeks. And these are all teams that were at one point in the top 5 of our power rankings when the Ravens played them, including the Niners and the Patriots and the Texans. So, I mean, whether it's offensively or defensively, they've exacted their will on the game, no matter how close or how big of a win it was. So right now they're playing their best football. And, yeah, Allen is pretty much unreal in the fourth quarter. And I've seen a couple of Bills games late in the fourth quarter where, they were close and they pulled out the victory by a touchdown or so. But watching the complete game with them for the first time on Thanksgiving Day, that was eye-opening, especially what they did to Dallas. So I do give the Bills a chance. I'm not sure they can hang with the Ravens for 4 quarters. But, hey, if they do, congrats. I'm just going with the Ravens here. No big names on the injury report for either team, by the way.
Listen, it'd be a nice present for the Patriots if the Bills could knock off the Ravens.
There we go. We go.
Be very nice.
Well, then they're breathing down your neck in the division, man.
And then they're tied with us in the division unless we
and you're going to lose
the victory against Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting dilemma, but one which we Patriot fans can deal with. The Battle of Ohio, the 1-11 Cincinnati Bengals head to Cleveland to face the Browns, who are 5-7. Somehow the Bengals still remained in 32nd place. I gave them a nice little reward this week for winning their one game, and I boosted them up to 30th in my power rankings.
Oh, wow.
The Cleveland Browns are 19th in the power rankings. They are favored by 8.5 points in this particular game. This is not the official NFL 100 nugget, but it will do nicely. When the Bengals make the cross-state trip to play the Browns, the teams will meet for a 92nd time. Sunday will mark the first time in 35 years in which each club has a first-year head coach. Zach Taylor, Freddie Kitchens are the first rookie head coaching pair in the series since December 2nd, 1984, when the Bengals' Sam Weish beat Browns' Marty Schottenheimer on an overtime field goal 20-17. I say flip the outcome, and the Browns win in this game the exact same way Marty Schottenheimer could not beat Sam Weish. Freddie Kitchens will beat Zach Taylor. So I'm saying take the Browns, but do not give away 8.5 points.
Yeah, I picked the Browns, but I have zero confidence in that pick. I don't have confidence in the Browns to win any game, essentially, for the rest of the year. And look, I mean, by starting Andy Dalton again, like the Bengals have like turned the difficulty level on their crappy roster from up to hard from tanking. So hey, you never know. They might be able to pull off a win here. I kind of think these two teams play again, like in week 17 or something. So I think the Browns are going to lose one of those two games, but I think they win the one in Cleveland most likely.
I've got nothing. I'm picking the Browns because they have a better record. And I mean, yeah, they could lose to the Bengals. I mean, but they probably shouldn't. Who knows? Names on the injury reports for Cincinnati: John Ross, shoulder injury. Green is still listed as questionable, though I doubt he plays at this point. I'm going to keep mentioning that every week until it says that he's playing. And Brandon Wilson had a hand injury on Sunday, so he's listed as questionable as well. For the Cleveland Browns, Greedy Williams, Baker Mayfield, and Robert Jackson all show up on the injury report. Baker suffered a hand injury when he threw the ball and his throwing hand hit off a Steelers helmet on Sunday, so that's something to keep an eye out for as well.
47 and cloudy, so weather not a concern in Cleveland.
Next.
Weather won't be a concern in Houston because they play in a dome. And even if they didn't play in a dome, it's Houston. The Denver Broncos are 4-8. The Texans are 8-4. Texans are 9th in the power rankings. The Broncos are 22nd. Texans favored by 9.5. For the Texans, you just got to hope they don't suffer from a Patriots hangover. They won their circle game for the year, almost took the foot off the pedal too much. The Patriots help everyone to remember what the great Jeff Fisher once said, this game is 4 quarters long. I will take the Texans, and I have no problem giving 9.5 points to the Broncos either. The Texans should win this game handily.
Yeah, pretty much. They're at home.
Yeah. In honor of Drew Lock's second start, I am locking the Texans up against him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Nick has got a lock. Well, I mean, locks. This is James' first lock. James will lock in 2 more games, but this is his first of many locks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a lockable game. Look, I get the Broncos won last week, but that was against fledgling competition, if you want to call it that. And I use the word competition very loosely for the squad they beat on Sunday. This is definitely a more superior team than what they played. And even though Von Miller is listed as questionable, I don't know how effective he'll be coming back playing this week since he's missed the last couple of games. Also on the Broncos injury report, guard Ron Leary and linebacker Alexander Johnson. For the Texans, no big names of note. Garyon Conley, cornerback who they acquired via trade or a couple of weeks ago from the Raiders, he's listed as questionable. That's the biggest name there.
All right. The Detroit Lions, 3-8-1, are at the Minnesota Vikings, 8-4. The Vikings, 10th in the power rankings. The Lions, 30th. As I mentioned before, I put the Lions at 31, so not quite last place in my power rankings. But yeah. Previous game, Vikings are favored by 13 in this game, by the way. Previous game was a 42-30 win by Minnesota, and I say David Blau should just change his name now to Blow. Embrace it, and nobody else can take that power away from you. With the Bengals win last week, I gave them that slight reward. I suspect after this week, the Lions will stay put at 31, while the Bengals will retake their last place spot. I will take the Vikings. I'm not going to give 13 points to the Lions, though. James, you're locking it in. Are you going to give 2 touchdowns to the Lions?
Sure, why not? I mean, the Lions' defense tends to disappear at halftime. Look at the game last Thursday against the Bears. They played great in the first half, and in the second half, the wheels fell off. The offense couldn't move. The defense couldn't stop anybody. I don't know what's going on with this Detroit team. This is Patricia's second year. You'd figure, considering the tree he comes from, that this team will be more disciplined for 4 quarters of football. And they have the most absurd lapses, and he's not impacting them. I think their history is impacting him, because the Detroit Lions are playing the way we've been used to them playing for the last 5 to 7 years. Like every time you decide to put hope in them, stuff happens. Now, granted, this year is different because Matthew Stafford refuses to go on IR, has not been playing the last several games, but I don't think they would have won those games if he was playing. So I don't know what's going on in Detroit. I feel sorry for the fan base. I feel like I say that every year, but I don't see them winning this game or making it even remotely close against Minnesota. Quick hits on the injury report for the Lions. Damian Harrison, Rashawn Melvin, of course, Stafford already mentioned, Jamal Agnew all show up as questionable. For the Vikings, Thielen is still listed as questionable with his injury. And second most glaring injury here is Dalvin Cook. he has what's being described as a shoulder injury, so he's questionable as well. So that's something to keep an eye on. I still think Minnesota should run the ball, though.
Yeah,